That's good.
Dennis, happy evening hour to you, my friend.
Happy hour. Happy hour.
Yet another week has passed, and here we are again, speaking to each other.
Hello. Hello again. And to our record number 89 listeners.
89 listeners.
We're
Holy
now.
Cow. We're getting close to the triple digits. Because
that was only for that's the good news. The bad news is it was only for 30 seconds apiece.
Oh, well, shoot.
Oh, get it? Yeah. Shoot.
Yeah. Well, oh well.
Well, we just got through a big major storm here. Of course, there's storms all across U.S. Louisiana got hit hard. New Orleans is underwater again, kind of as usual.
I have a new coworker in New Orleans, and so I get some feedback from there. Yep. Yeah, he's got like a guest house that I'm welcome to come visit in anytime, which is kind of cool. Yeah,
you mentioned that.
Like,
and did you tell me where he lived?
More detail than that, I don't know. I'm sure.
Yeah, I'll get a street name for me, so I'll place the neighborhood and tell you what I know about it.
All right.
It's one of the most exotic places I've ever been in the United States.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Exotic is pretty much the right word, I think.
We take these turns every week where one of us has to give an interesting fact that we discovered or learned about, and most of us are just like saying stuff that we discovered on the internet or whatever. But this guy, he's always giving us facts about New Orleans and about in Mardi Gras. He recently had one that was, these are these weird laws, because you know how in the U.S. there are these bizarre laws that are still on the books in all the different areas because they're just old and vestigial and are still there but never enforced. And you know, there was one that was like, yes, a woman is allowed to drive an automobile only if her husband is walking in front of it, like waving a flag, like being like
a true story.
Yeah, no, but like it's these stupid 100-year-old laws that are like sort of still there. And another one was like,
right. Is that true?
You can only buy like $20,000 worth of crawdads or something before it becomes illegal to buy more crawdads. Just
crawdads.
Weird.
I wondered about that.
Weird stuff. So lots of storms in the U.S. I hear.
Well, yeah, New Orleans flooded, where we got started on that. But here, kind of a flash flood thing, and my gutter system became clogged, and for the first time in a year, it was overwhelmed. I had no water got in my house, but the drainage systems both filled, and then water was everywhere outside, gushing right into my garage, because we got 4, 5, 6 inches of rain in an hour. Just whoosh.
So your gutters feed into your garage? That seems like
if the gutters overflow, then the water hits the driveway. If it hits the driveway, it rolls toward the garage. My garage has the terrible characteristic of being downhill from the rest of the house.
Ooh.
Which means that's where all the water goes. A garage should be level or a little higher than the house, actually.
But it's easy to get your car in there when you're out of gas, though. If it's downhill to roll it into the garage, right?
Yeah, it's my workshop. Actually, you can get a bicycle in there.
What
I built a loft, this old shed to store stuff. So I'm getting it ready to empty my basement so that the guy can come in and put in a whole house water filter system, because my water from the city comes out brown or green, sometimes clear, not usually, and also a water softener. So I'm having a major installation. So the domino effect of homecraft. The workers are coming. They got to have space.
Right.
The space in the basement is full of stuff. To get the stuff out of the basement, you have to go through another part of the basement. That's full of stuff. At the top of the stairs, that's full of stuff. On the top of the porch, that's full of stuff. So what I'm doing is I'm creating space maximum in my shed, my one-car garage, so that the stuff that's in the basement that is better suited for the shed can go there. Cutting tools, anything that causes dust, that's all tools for the outside shed.
Right. So, wow.
Machinery, oil, iron products, metal, fixtures, electrical, that's all inside work.
Right.
Because that's not dusty. In fact, it's the antithesis of dust. It's dust-free. You might as well be on the moon when you're working on electrical shit. You know what I mean, bro?
I mean, Isn't the moon sort of dusty?
Oh, dusty moon.
Just saying.
Moonstruck. Not yet, huh?
That's my project for...
It'll be worth the whole episode when you watch. It'll be worth the whole episode.
Yeah. Maybe episode like 300 or something. We can put that up. We can have that as our goal.
At this rate. At this rate. So you latched onto Billions, did you, and found that...
I did.
Lewis, Paul Giamatti.
Yes.
Are the two actors.
They are...
Damian Lewis.
Yes. I've loved them for their whole careers. Damian Lewis, first, I really got to know him in Band of Brothers. He was the captain that led the whole troop. And then in Homeland, he was, in the first season, semi-spoiler, he was just amazing. And yes.
What was he? What part?
What was his part?
What part? What was his character?
He was an American soldier that was accused of being a spy for the Taliban or something. There was a lot of ambiguity as to where his allegiances were. And
beard or no beard?
No beard. No, he was always pretty clean shaven. And so he was like, he had been overseas and then was back home and there was some ambiguity as to whether or not he was helping the good guys or the bad guys. But that was those first, God, maybe he was in the second season too. Those first couple seasons of Homeland were really, really good.
Yeah, I have never seen one Homeland, so it may be my binge because it's on Showtime.
Yeah, and Claire Danes.
Claire Danes, of course. Little Women.
Yes,
is when she was the sixth sister who fucking died a pitiful fucking death. Good Lord, everyone who sees the movie sheds a tear. Poor Claire. She just dies an awful death.
Yes, she is within a year of my age, and I've always sort of been a fan of hers. But she does in Homeland, she does a really good bipolar disorder character.
I didn't know that.
Yes, it's very, very, very well done. And of course, the other tentpole of Homeland is Mandy Patinkin. No, what the fuck?
Yeah, Mandy Patinkin.
Mandy Patinkin. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, who?
Patinkin.
I've never actually heard his name pronounced. Yes.
Oh my God, he goes way back to, he was the star of the sword fighting.
Yes,
Mel Brooks,
the
movie.
Princess Bride. Yes, he was
Princess Bride.
Yes, he was. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. That guy. But apparently, like, and I had no, like, when I saw him in Homeland, I had no clue that he was also that guy. But apparently, he has had this amazing career on Broadway as a singer. Yes. Like, he's and
a pianist.
Yeah, he's first a musician and secondarily an actor. And he is he's about your age. He was born in 52, November 30th.
You're older than me.
Yep. So
1 month to the day.
November. No. Okay. Whatever.
December 3rd.
So he was November 30th.
Whatever. It's just my birthday. Don't worry about it.
So anyway,
it's nothing special.
So anyway, it's basically, Homeland is basically Claire Danes, who is my age, and Mandy Patinkin, who's your age and has a full beard, and it's their, banter between the older, wiser person and the younger, more bipolar person. So
see if he was in Dick Tracy with Warren Beatty.
He was. Yes.
And what was his character?
That was in 1990.
We'll have to show this in the show notes because,
yes,
of course. Remember, speaking of that movie, remember Al Pacino in that movie?
I don't, but I just saw him listed on the cast. I remember Madonna was in it.
It's one of his best performances. Madonna was a love interest. She was pretty sparkling. But Al Pacino, I think one of my most favorite performances ever. Totally in character. He was grotesque. He was riveting.
What a wild cast. Also including Dick Van Dyke, Kathy Bates, Dustin Hoffman, Mandy Patinkin as 88 Keys, the piano player at the Club Ritz.
That's the music first and the acting second.
James Caan, wow. Caan, as the case may be. Wow. Yes, so I've been enjoying Billions. it's in the same way that in the current environment, I feel a little ashamed to have so much enjoyed all the cop drama and Law and Order and those things where, we're putting the bad guys away. And now we're doing this serious questioning of what the fuck the police are supposed to be and do. I feel a little shame for enjoying so much watching the lives of basically American royalty with billions. Like it's the super, super rich doing whatever they want and making these split second decisions that turn into $50 million in one day and stuff like that.
Well, and Chuck Rhodes, Paul Giamatti's character, is in the same office that Giuliani had before he became mayor of New York City.
Well, and they don't shut up about
suing Trump.
Yeah, they don't shut up about the fact that, this is the office that is held before you become mayor. Like, this is a stepping stone.
Well, in this case, he went to Attorney General. Whoops, spoiler.
Oh,
sorry.
Stop it. Oh well, yeah, but it's
very well acted, and it's been on 5 seasons, and they're putting out new episodes now, probably shot indoors and whatnot. You have to edit that out. Yuck.
I saved the last one.
Freeze the chart.
Here we go. I saved the last one where you said, edit that out. Oh, that's
I hear that trader coming.
Coming around the bend.
Coming down.
Well, shit. I better pour myself a whiskey.
Trader coming, and I won't keep coming back. Sneezed the man in Memphis. Just to watch him die. He got that COVID-19 virus. He's gonna run and die.
Wow, that's dark.
I was just a poor boy. My father told me, son, sneeze on company time or you'll be undone. Well,
you got the big cheese and the big sneeze coming to you live from Happy Hour FM.
Play the sneeze and then play this, and you'll see that it's perfectly on key.
You nailed my note, my nasal note.
Ballad the other day about a man telling his woman that he's sorry she's got to leave him for a short while, but he can't go and march with her because he has a lung problem.
Mm-hmm.
And the chorus is about him saying every breath he breathes for George Floyd.
Nice.
And the connection between him and his long-suffering or long-term wife. When I imagine any wife, I imagine her, suffering, if she's a long-term wife, long-suffering.
Right.
But I'm going to remember the tune before too long. But it was a sweet thing that came to me.
I love that idea of I breathe for George Floyd, like the whole being suffocated, and those of us that were not suffocated need to do our part.
You know how fucking long 8 minutes and 46 seconds is? It's these vigils that are people kneeling for that long or holding silent for that long. That is a long time.
Yeah.
For anything to be happening.
Yeah, I was telling my kids about it. I asked my kids the other day. I said, "Do you know that there is trouble in America?" And they said, "Yeah, we saw something about that." And so to reiterate, they are 7 and 11. And so I said, "Do you know what happened?" And my 11-year-old said, "Yeah, somebody died and everyone is angry." And I said, "That is shallow but accurate." To which she said, "What the fuck does that mean?"
Shallow. How nice. How nice. And then he shirked off to the corner and wept.
No.
It's very shallow of you, son. I'll be gone with you.
It was my daughter. But and so then I went on to try and explain, because Spain, where they are growing up, they know so few people that are not white European colored. But however, my daughter is friends with an African girl that speaks mostly French, who's in her class, and my daughter loves this girl. Like, she's, according to my daughter, she's funny, and she does these pretty drawings that she gives to people, and so like my daughter's a big fan of this African girl that doesn't speak a lot of Spanish, actually, and so I tried. She goes to French classes, but speak French, I don't know, not really.
Right.
Yeah,
right. She might catch words here and there.
Yeah, so I tried to explain a little bit about what it is that in America, how much harder it is for black people than for white people, and how we have this history of black people being property, and how hard it has been for the white people to overcome that assumption, et cetera, and just a little bit of history. And they sort of were following along, but I don't really know. And so I explained that, look, we have this problem where we have this history of the largely white police often using too much force and often killing the black populace, and how everyone is just upset about this, and how it's really sad that we even need to say Black Lives Matter. That, like, it doesn't make sense to say that any one particular group's lives matter, because obviously all of them do. And anyway, I got a little bit across, but it sort of glossed over them because, like, they're not in that culture, and obviously they're young. And how much of that did each of us understand when we were 7 or 11? Like, it was very little. So
has Spain had demonstrations? Because there's
in the big cities,
20, 30 countries now that have.
Yeah, in Madrid and in Barcelona, I'm sure there were demonstrations, but we live in Podunk, Fishermansville, and there's been nothing here. And like, the only black people that we have in our little town are lately it's been maybe possibly second generation, but mostly first generation, like Africans that have crossed the Mediterranean to look for work in Spain and have found just grueling manual labor on the fishing boats. So a lot of the crews on the fishing boats that go out like for 20 hours at a time to do just really backbreaking work, a lot of those people are Africans. But
what are they catching?
Fish. We got sometimes it's tuna. Sometimes it's tuna. Sometimes it's, what is it in English? Marlin. Mackerel. Sometimes it's mackerel. Sometimes it's anchovies. Anchovies is the big main product of our region.
It's a big net.
Yeah.
Anchovies is a big net. Those are small. Yeah. Well, it sounds fascinating.
Well, you need a big gross to have a big net, right? Little accounting joke in there.
You need a big gross to have a big net.
I mean, take away your expenses.
Yeah, right.
You know, so
clever. Right. Anyway. Right.
So there's been that. Well, how has your family been doing?
Everybody's mustering. You know, we're opened up now. Restaurants with spaces and masks stated as required, but not really. There's always some jerk off or two that still isn't wearing a mask in a grocery store. It's just very irritating, but we haven't participated yet. I think we may still do some just takeout for a while.
Right.
But otherwise, everybody's kind of getting, doing their job much reduced. But nobody's been ill.
Good.
So, and the weather's been, we're now, our walk to the lake,
yes.
Lake Michigan, we're down to 4 miles.
Down to,
so
meaning
we'll have walked.
That's all that is left to get to the destination?
Till we hit the lake.
Nice.
We're now driving 45 minutes to walk.
Right.
Whatever length we walk, 2 miles, 3 miles, whatever. And now we're 4 miles from the lake, so we're because now things are open, so we can get a drink when we get there.
Nice.
So we've decided to leave the last mile for the last day, so that when we're done with our festivities,
yep.
we only have a mile to walk back.
Right. So
as opposed to any other, you go over to 1 or 1.5 increments as close as you can. Those are the postings.
Right.
So we're looking forward to that. So we have two or three more walks to get there. So that's been a lot of fun for us, and seeing different parts of the countryside between here and the Lake Michigan.
Yeah. I was going to say, hey, when you get there, you should do the walk back, but you've already done the walk back, sort of going back to the car every time.
We've done it.
So
again and again and again and again. So 38 miles one way. By the time we get there, we'll walk 72 miles. And next, I wanted to do it on our bikes.
Huh.
I just got my wife's bike fixed and ready to go. Mine is already ready to go. But I need my truck for that. So that's on loan right now. But load the bikes in, and instead of doing 2 or 3 miles of a walk, which is a mile and a half, 2 miles, we usually do 2 miles in, 2 miles out. Yeah. No less than 3 miles, but on a bike, you do 10.
Sure.
5 in and 5 back, knowing that the trip back is
uphill.
Got a 15% incline. Now,
I was going to say, if you're heading towards the water. Yep.
15% doesn't sound like a lot, but look at a protractor and just get a picture of 15% and realize that when it's sustained for 38 miles, or mostly sustained, it's uphill. It's really uphill.
We measure angles in degrees, not percent. Did you mean degrees?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, 15 degrees is a hell of an incline.
That's not true. I laugh just because it sounds reasonable, but actually, this particular statistic is reported by percentage.
Of what?
And I'm just restating it. It's of 0.
Every percentage 15%. Has a denominator.
15 of 100. Yes.
100 what?
15.
We need units.
100%. 100% level.
100% level.
Level.
So 100%. It's hardly level at all. It's only 15% level.
Now, you got the idea. A 15% incline mean that it's 15% off.
90 degrees?
No, 15 degrees.
Okay.
I don't know that it's a temperature thing, but it might be.
Okay, hold on.
15 degrees seems a little cold, even if you're riding a bike.
What do percent inclined equate to? We looked up on the internet at electricskateboarders.builders. So I imagine 100% incline would be straight up 90 degrees. And so we've taken degrees and pulled it down to 15%. So 15% of 90 degrees would be 90 times 0.15, which is 13.
Your vertical axis is 100%.
Right.
And your horizontal axis is 0%.
Gotcha.
And so 15% shows itself
13.5 degrees.
In incline. Yes.
So we can do radians
back
too.
Back to my protractor, which is the way that I imagine this as a protractor.
I mean,
I don't want to draw it out.
I'm not.
I don't want to draw it out.
I'm very much in favor of farmers, so I'm certainly not anti-tractor. But I guess you could call me protractor. Right?
I have a world vision, so I'm geotractor. Which makes no sense.
I was just listening to our episode, for some reason I listened to these, where you were talking about your earth moving tools, where you were digging up your garden bed and whatnot.
Right.
And I'm curious how that is going with your dirt moving. And also, I want to get back to your workshop. Great. I want to know what's going on in your workshop.
It's great. It's great because here is one of the tests. Was the soil loamy enough, aka absorbent enough, to withstand a pretty mighty rain, or did it flood, and some of the good stuff that I mixed in flooded out? Which wouldn't be terrible. It's just what you want to know. But it has to do with the observance of how well drained the soil is. The plants that I'm planting need to be very well drained. Otherwise, the roots will rot and they will be thwarted. And so that's why I use my magic fucking claw tool to go down 8 or 10 inches, and then I mix in my potting mix. And as it turns out, the rain, it was loamy enough that absorbed it and puffed it up a little bit, and it's very, very good. Tomorrow I have delivered unto me 3 cubic yards of fine ground brown mulch. And now I will take those beds that are loamy and well aerated and weedless, because I did remove every weed, and I will cover it with 3 inches or so of a mounded
mulch.
Yeah.
So,
and then when I go to plant my plants, wait, you asked me the fucking question. I'm trying to answer.
No, hold on.
I've got to put this together.
I'm saving my follow-up questions for later. Yes. Continue.
I've had several beers and God knows what else. And
Continue.
I'm trying to keep it together to answer your question. Then it will rain on that mulch, and by the time my plants come, all I have to do is scrape the mulch away a bit, take my next tool, which is shaped like a diamond, a circular diamond, with the bottom cut off. So when you jam it into the ground, it forces you to create a cone-shaped hole.
Yes.
Into which you throw a handful of extra rich soil, and then press it into, and then take that 3 to 4 inch mulch topping and bring it to the stem of the plant. But near the stem of the plant, create a little indention, which actually is a little water basin, so that when you water that little plant, the water will drip down the main stem, go to the roots, which will then in turn break down the soil into its nutrients and its runoff and its products, and the fucking plant will take off like a fucking miracle.
Like a SpaceX rocket. Okay.
Oh, yeah. How about that?
So, Loamy. You said that Loamy meant absorbent, but that you didn't want a lot of water in the soil. So do you want Loamy, or do you not want Loamy?
I didn't want there to be so much water that it overwhelmed the soil.
You want a Goldilocks Loamy level.
Space. Exactly.
Okay.
It's the Goldilocks syndrome.
Okay.
You get to a certain point where that soil in that particular trench that you dig, which has its own depth, once you go down 8 or 9 inches, you're into the soil that's supporting your lawn, and your lawn roots are 2 or 3 inches long. So you've got a lot of absorbency
right
there, particularly when it's loamy, meaning less dense. Clayey would be on one end of the spectrum, and then loamy would be on the other end of the spectrum. If it's clay, and you can plant in clay,
right,
but know that you have to have a short-rooted plant or a tubular root. A tubular root will run alongside the crevice, hit the clay, and then go left or right.
Right.
Whereas
obviously.
a tubular root hits the clay and then is frustrated, and the plant becomes gnarly, misshapen, never meeting its destiny. You've got to understand the root structure. The roots join us together. They join the plants as in one canopy of just, this is, you can hear them growing when you listen. You can hear the roots expanding. You can hear the soil parting. You can hear the water being absorbed and the soil breaking down and the pebbles following the stream and ending up in my driveway, where I sweep it and push it into the road
for cars to run over. And yeah, interesting. So I think we've all felt that frustration of a tubular plant that finds itself in a clayey environment and gets all gnarly. I think we've all been there. But
it's the story of each of our lives in such a poignant and almost heartbreaking way. So did you see, just to date this, that what Michael Jordan, if you want to be like Mike, what Michael Jordan did yesterday?
No.
In the deep sea tournament, caught a 422-pound marlin.
Okay.
And it wasn't one of the top 5. He's going to go back out.
I would not have thought, when you said, did you see what Michael Jordan did yesterday? Fishing was not where my mind went.
No.
But hey,
no pun intended.
No pun intended. There was a pun there?
A pun intended. That's not where your line went?
Mind.
What?
Jesus.
I thought you said line. That's not where my line, like my line of thought, my thread of thought. That's what I thought you.
No, you would have thought that.
No pun intended.
You would have thought that as the fisherman.
Is that so terrible?
Yeah.
That's so terrible.
Well, it's not Loamy.
It could be worse.
It could be clay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
you could break clay into soil. Claw, actually.
You can do what?
You can turn clay into soil using the claw tool.
The claw.
When you hit the clay.
Yeah.
The claw tool. It's a miracle. It's a magic tool.
The claw tool.
You posted the pictures, right?
That picture that you sent me is what you call the claw tool?
Yeah, the blue and the yellow handles. I sent you 3 shots.
I don't recall the handle color. There was a thing that looked like a sort of a spiky wheel on the end.
That was the trimmer.
That was the edger.
Before and after picture of the lawn, and then the wheels.
I don't recall the claw tool. You described a tool that was like that curled back around itself.
Got the pictures. You're going to let me know because I took 3 of them. I'm sure I sent them, but I may be wrong.
Well,
I guess then that means I'm not sure. So I said I was sure, but now you've riddled me with doubt.
Yeah, your mind is not very Loamy. Like,
no, it's more like clay.
It's
hard baked, red clay,
rigid. But so with a proper claw tool.
I saw a cartoon of Trump today, a massive caricature of his big fat fucking head. And it was like his head had been sliced in half so you could see inside.
Yep.
And he was getting a swab for a COVID-19 test.
You sent this to me.
And you could see the swab go all the way back to the back of his cranium because his brain was completely missing. It was a very good image. A very good image. I sent you today 882 cartoons of Donald Trump. I got to 76 and said, stop.
Yeah, you told me number 15 was good, and I made it all the way there, and then was like, I got shit to do. I'm not retired.
So here's the question for a little research for your downtime is, so what is it true? My theory would be that Donald Trump is the most caricatured president ever, knowing that presidents are the most caricatured citizens in the United States. So it's the most caricatured of the most caricatured individuals. And I believe that we would find, it's my theory, that Donald is more a son of prolific caricaturing than any other president in the history of our nation.
Okay, to that, I would suggest that every single president is more caricatured than the last, because our population is growing and there are more artists and there's more attention to be grabbed by images. And I think that if you look back at the last few presidents, I think you're going to find that everyone was more caricatured than the previous. So that, however, begs the question of degree. So when you go from Kennedy to Nixon, et cetera, LBJ, all the way up and down the line, there would follow a pattern, which you're saying would be more of a trajectory of IT environment rather than anything else. Yeah, you could maybe do like a per capita of citizens or something, like to
not per capita. Not per capita, per message.
No,
media message.
No. I was saying to control for the fact that if there are 2 million more people in America, then there are probably 10,000 more caricature artists, right? So if you controlled by that, but then it's a matter of publishing. Before there were gatekeepers for publishing, and it was really hard to get your shit published. Like when you were a teenager and you drew a funny drawing of whoever was president when you were a teenager, Benjamin Franklin or whoever it was, that you couldn't necessarily get that published. But now we can get anything published. Anyone can publish anything immediately with no checks and balances. And so there are no more gatekeepers.
The comparison would be the number of caricatures per opportunities for caricaturing.
Yeah, which is
so
measured
as
how
the media, which is too well beyond. I mean, it's a pretty complicated algorithm.
Yeah, we're doing a thought experiment. That's fine.
Doable.
Yeah, it's a happy hour thought experiment. Cool. We don't need facts.
I'm reading a book, Winds of War by Herman Wallach. Winds of War. It's about World War II. And it's a military-based kind of fictionalized historic novel with Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Hitler, and Churchill, and character after character. And one of the characters is a salty old Navy captain who's one of the lead in the story. And he has a daughter, and his daughter ends up quite to his angst as a military Navy man working for a newfangled television radio kind of show thing going on in New York City. And
New York City.
That's right. And she goes to visit her dad when he's on leave from his war preparations, and she's living in New York City as a young woman on her own, and she can't stay at his new Washington, D.C. house. She needs to go back to New York City because she's going to work late into the night on the television and the radio. It's radio, not television. And she says, so you got to know, Dad, we have this new show that we're doing because Hugh Cleveland, who's the radio host, Hugh Cleveland is going from post in all the military posts throughout America and elsewhere, and traveling, and he's interviewing people there for an hour. And you must know that I had the idea for the name. Call it Happy Hour.
Nice. Yeah.
And I just said out loud to the book in the middle of the night with Eric and Dennis.
Yeah. Turns out we're not the only podcast with that name. No. There are others. And so, which makes us, like, it's not, we fail on search engine optimization, SEO, where if you tell someone, hey, there's a new podcast called Flunkenstein or whatever, then probably you're going to be able to go and find that thing. But if you say, hey, there's a new podcast called Happy Hour, and someone goes to try and find that, they're not going to find it. Despite the fact that we
searching
despite the fact that we own fucking happyhour.fm, which is not cheap, by the way.
Right.
Patreon.com/happyhour. We need some donations there.
Please.
It's
feed the meter.
Feed the meter. The meter is hungry. Yeah. So
imagine Donald Trump saying, and George Floyd looking down from heaven, he's happy because it's such a great day. It's such a great day. He's happy, smiling down, seeing these unemployment numbers. It's so good. It's so good for race relations. He's talking now about giving a major speech on race relations and race in America.
I heard about this.
Donald Trump.
I want this so badly.
Laughed off the fucking planet.
I want this so badly. Please, Donald Trump, talk more about race. Talk about how, I don't know, how it's just mind-boggling. And for sure, there have been many, many articles that I've been reading lately about how, like, I'm so steeped in my male white privilege that there's so many problems in society that I just don't even see. And things like getting into a good college or having a good SAT score or stuff like that. Like, so there was I don't know if I've linked to this before in this podcast, but there was a great podcast series several months ago about IQ and the IQ test and what IQ is, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's the two most interesting findings were the IQ test is the best measure that we have, the most predictive measure that we have for future financial success. The higher your IQ on the IQ test, the better, the more salary. When you take it as a kid, the higher your IQ, the more salary you're going to have when you're a grown up. And the other thing that we know for sure is that the higher your IQ, the more likely it is that you grew up in a white neighborhood and are white. It predicts both of those things, which are obviously linked. Like, it's one of those things where causation is not correlation, or vice versa.
Right.
I think it may be. But so like it has been, and I'm linked to this. It was a Radiolab series that was excellent. So the better your IQ score, the more likely you are to have been brought up in white American society, such that you think the way that everyone expects you to think to succeed, which is dark as fuck. Like, it has no bearing on actually your capacity to think or problem solve or any of that. It's just, there's so much culture ingrained in the test that it's like, do you fit with this culture that is the dominant culture? And if you do, then yes, you're going to do well. And if you don't and excel in some other way that isn't part of this particular sliver of the culture, then you're then you're not. But it's a pretty fucked up and unjust world, and it's our job as white dudes to, help as many people as we can to try and get up to where we are. But it's a struggle.
Well, there's an interesting thing that is going to happen in this worldwide phenomenon, is that the rethinking of the justice system at the end of the day is a rethink of a hierarchical military, paramilitary structure, and which has over the years gotten more and more and more responsibility in terms of what it does. And for example, it's the agency that's called when there are demonstrations. Well, one might question whether or not that particular agency should be the agency that's called on to do that. There could be a different agency. Let's call that the other agency, just to be, evident about it, Corps. And what the Peace Corps does is a group of people that go and attend the demonstrations with walkie-talkies and no weapons, and make certain that they do crowd control.
Yep.
And that is become a law enforcement function. And while it makes some sense there, the idea is to rethink it. That's when they say, let's defund police. They would have you believe that means recalibrate the funding without defunding police, but it in fact means exactly what it says, to defund. And Bill Blasio in New York City has already announced that he's going to slash the law enforcement funding, which is another terrible message for anybody to put out, that it's going to be slashed. This is the time for thought-provoking interpretation analysis, not for getting out of slashing. Is what do you use? A machete, a big knife, some violent act. Slashing
Wrong verb.
Is an emotional response. And it's like, Bill, calm the fuck down and think a bit about what you're talking about. And it's payback to the fucking police union that fucking hates his guts and didn't like him from his first fucking term. When he came to talk to them about police issues, they all in the audience turned their back on him.
Nice.
While he was speaking.
I heard about this, yeah.
Check my historical footnote there. I doubt highly that it was all, but it might be a bit over the top, but it was pretty dramatic.
Yeah. So the whole problem with, like, it's one thing if you're protesting the war in Iraq or the war in wherever, and the police are there and they are just sort of there to make sure that nothing bad happens. But it's another thing if you're there to protest specifically the fucking police that are the ones that are there, and every chant hurts them, and every chant that they hear is against them, and how could they not escalate? Like, I don't know.
And that's
your point that we need a different agency to manage protests, a different agency than is the law enforcement agency, makes so much sense. And like,
you want to say something that's just fascinating on these whole points? Look at the Bill Barr interview where he is trying to fucking run the gauntlet between what tear gas is and the stuff that they sent out to create heat and tears in the eyes. Gas was a pepper bomb or a pepper ball.
Right. And
this is truly a plant derivative, but it's been chemicalized and militarized. And yes, I know there's a song in there somewhere. Yeah. But look at the interview where he says no, it wasn't tear gas. And the interviewer tries to get in, and it says, but when But when it exploded, everybody started crying because it caused tears in their eyes. And his response is just incredible. Incredible. That may be, but it's not a chemical. It's not tear gas.
For fuck's sake. Yeah. It's...
Oh, fuck's sake.
Yeah. And I don't know. Like, I learned recently that, and this was new to me because I grew up as I did when I did, and I did not realize that what we call the police in the modern day is only a very recent invention. Like, it wasn't around for, like, 100, 150 years ago. There were no government employees that were tasked with, when someone scares me, I can call them and have them come and tackle this person to the ground. That previously it was all about
the Pinkerton.
It was all about, do I know someone big and strong that will come and help defend me if I need them to? And this whole thing of the police was more about the capitalists that were gaining a lot of wealth and needed their wealth to be protected so that people didn't come in and just take their gold or their cash or whatever. So they needed a group of people that they could call or depend on to remedy that problem. And the
Pinkertons is who they call.
The Pinkertons?
The Pinkertons, yes.
Okay.
For a hire police agency.
Right.
And it was because of businesses making the money that the government said that's a function we should do. And it's the story of capitalistic infusion into government democratic processes.
Well, that would be in the goddamn show notes.
Look at the similar type of history. Look at the history similar to private-run prisons, and how that is a similar kind of question as to what the fuck are we paying people to do?
Yeah. So happyhour.fm/063 is where whatever the Pinkertons reference is going to point to. I do not know about that. I am going to learn about it because...
And that is a good note. That is a good note to depart.
Like that note? Or a low note?
Oh.
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 Okay, well.
Oh.
Hey, if we end on a flat note or a sharp note?
Can you hit that note? Where
are you tonight?
Why did you leave
so
me
in my editing of the last
alone?
episodes, it's been like, okay, we have the same song.
You don't want this to be our classic ending? Yeah, sure.
It should be now.
Every time from now on, I'll do whatever the fuck I want.
All right, go for it. Where are you?
Yeah, all right, I love you, man. Oh.
Good night. Love you, man.
No.
Where are
He was yelling.
That's it for episode number 63. You can go find the show notes at happyhour.fm/063. And of course, as always, you can support us at our Patreon at patreon.com/happyhour. We would really appreciate that. And most of all, we would appreciate that you guys stay safe and donate to Equal Justice and just be good. We'll see you next week.